We're approaching crunch time in the 2024 International GT Open for the championship. Just 2 points separate Alessio De Leda in the Oregon Lamborghini from East Talent Racing's Chris Verhaarse and Simon Riker. The penultimate race of the 2024 campaign comes from the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, the home race for the GT Sport organisation, the driving force behind this championship and the GT Cup Europe and Euro Formula Open Championships. We have 60 minutes of racing to come, where we will set the scene for the Monza Endurance finale in a few weeks' time. It was Vincent Abril who was the star of qualifying with an absolutely superb lap in the number 51 Spirit of Race Ferrari 296, beating Christopher Haase to pole position. And they also have Lamborghini Works driver Jordan Pepper starting right behind them as well. And the Pro-Am fight continues just behind them as well. And we have the opportunity to crown our AM champion today as well, with Giuseppe Cipriani well placed in the AM category with a 20-point advantage after drop scores are applied. Chris Stevens and George Morgan in the commentary box for the next 60 minutes of racing. And George, especially after yesterday's thrilling lead battle, that maiden victory for Car Collection in the championship, going up against Anthony Bartone in the Get Speed Mercedes, I'm very much looking forward to this one.
It's going to be a corker. What a performance as well from Car Collection. First race win for Nico Menzel and Gustav Bergström. And once again, they were showing all the promises through qualifying this morning, but instead Bergström starting from 17th place on the grid. But all the story here this morning was centered around Vincent Abril laying claim to his first pole position this season alongside Nico Marinangeli. Of course, Abril posting a lap that even he came out and said was one of the best of his career so far, and he was absolutely thrilled with it. There he currently sits front row of the grid, starting on pole position. They took their first victory of the season back at Paul Ricard. It was Vincent Abril's home race, and it was a home victory as well to boot. They'll be looking to bring it home and take their second of the campaign to date. Alongside them, though, championship contenders. Christopher Haase sat on the front row of the grid. Despite his efforts, obviously, was trying to close the gap in the very bitter stages of qualifying, taking a little bit of a snooze there, Chris.
It looked like we just interrupted his nap there, didn't it? Chris Verhaarse very relaxed on the front row of the grid there. Jordan Pepper, very late effort to keep the number 10 car on the front of the grid. Pepper left the pit lane already with a puncture in qualifying right at the start, which is why we didn't see him set a lap for a while. And that was a bizarre thing to happen, but Pepper keeping his composure and making sure that he starts right next to his teammate's main title rival. Pepper not in the championship fight because he missed a couple of rounds, but he's flying the flag for Alessio De Leda's title campaign. Marcos Seber hoping to make up for the mistake in yesterday's race where he clattered James Kell off the road. And then Julian Hanses, surely just the star driver of the weekend, his first appearance, his first major GT3 race. He has been competing in a German category called GT3 race, but this is certainly the biggest race weekend of his career. Pro-Am pole going to Alex Fontana and Car Collection. Alex Fontana actually very miffed about his qualifying. He reckons he could have gone for overall pole, but still some hindering damage on that car from yesterday's race that meant the car wasn't performing quite as it should have been. Still managed to stick it on class pole though, and hopefully the Car Collection team has got that car in a good state ready for this race.
Yeah, Mikhail Pitamba as well, fresh off the back of achieving an unlikely podium yesterday and qualified relatively strong as well, 7th place. He'll be starting on the grid. He's got Alan Coder just in behind, of course. Another pairing that'll be looking to bring out their very best ahead of their own fight in their own championship. Currently sat 6th in the Pro-Am affair of things, but obviously still a lot more to come. We've still got 2 more races to bring you, including one Enduro at Monza, where of course we will have double points in force when we head to that weekend at the Temple of Speed. Yannick Mettler qualifying strong as well for the Swiss partnership of he and Dexter Muller, long-term mainstays now in this championship. But Yannick, very impressive. But further down, Carol Bash obviously opened up qualifying today for the Olymp Racing Audi R8 LMS squadron. And the pole sat in P10, and I'm sure we'll be watching him certainly pepper his way through the field here in a bid to try and launch himself into a good position to allow Marcin Jedlinski to be in a well-placed area to challenge for the Pro-Am win. Obviously still many contenders that are looking to try and gamble on that. Giorgio Sinigiotto was also impressive today. In the initial stages of qualifying, found his car in the top end of the classification, but the crowd's now starting to gather here in a bid to watching what will be, I'm sure, an absolutely sensational race. James Kell looking for revenge after what happened yesterday, heading in towards turn 1. Unfortunately, Marcos Seibert getting his braking wrong, heading in towards turn 1. Eventually, they would clatter together, and Kell's car would spiral out of the race. They were looking so quick towards the end. They've got the sister Greystone McLaren 720S stood behind as well, this time with Lewis Proctor at the helm. This car did not finish in yesterday's race because Stuart Proctor, of course, had contact after Hash in the car collection Porsche that we were speaking about just now. Obviously still lingering with some of that damage, obviously coming together and hitting the front left of the Greystone GT McLaren. And we saw Dan Arrow earlier on in the paddock too. He's back in the car once more. They themselves, they've been trying to help out. He's been trying to obviously teach Pietro Vera, how to obviously get the best out of the car. Very good shooter is Dan Arrow. He's driven many different manufacturers, but has found home at Mercedes.
Yeah, only Piotr's third race weekend, so still very early and a lot to learn for the Polish man in the Polish team, the Goodspeed, which is a bit of a skeleton crew compared to some of the teams we have available here in the International GT Open, but great to see. And this is yesterday's race winners, Nico Menzel and Gustav Bergström, the latter starting the car in this race, going from 17th position. A slight update from the qualifying order as well. Anthony Bartone with a 3-place grid penalty after his unsafe release at the Red Bull ring, which caused contact with the number 17 Motor Park Mercedes. Now, why that penalty wasn't applied yesterday? Because Fabian Schiller was starting the car. The penalty applies to the next driver's start, and so that would be for this race. So he starts from 25th position, the man who finished second yesterday. Awful lot of work to do from there, and he's going to be right in amongst the Pro-Am and Am battle all the way back there, as well as we have 34 cars on the grid with the withdrawal of the Pellin Racing team from this one, but still a magnificent, colourful, healthy grid of GT3 cars with 6 manufacturers represented on the field, largely Mercedes and Ferrari, but also Lamborghini, Porsche, Audi and McLaren out there in this one, and 3 different classes of cars: Pro, Pro-Am and Am. So let's take a look back at what happened yesterday. It was the car collection Porsche that led from the offset, with the Get Speed Mercedes getting very close with the Motor Park car, but the lead battle absolutely sensational. Gustav Bergström with this monumental pass through turn number 12 on Anthony Bartone. They had bang wheels previously in the race, and that allowed Bergström to find his way through. Julian Hanses made his way through onto a podium battle as well. He was fighting with Bartone in his debut weekend in the International GT Open. Sensational stuff from the young German racer, giving a little hip and shoulder there with Bartone. Contact for Marcos Seibert. He picked up a post-race penalty that demoted him to 7th, and then disaster for Hanses from 2nd position, spinning the car and hitting the barriers. But for car collection, it was a maiden victory for both teams, team and drivers in the series. A remarkable day for the German outfit. Here in the championship, it is just 2 points that separate Alessio De Leda and Christopher Haase and Simon Riker in the championship. Schiller and Bartone still with an outside shot of the championship, but it looks like a 2-horse race with 2 races remaining, and they start next to each other on the grid. So race 2 at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia is about to get underway. 60 minutes of racing to come. Here is how they line up. It is a sensational pole position for Vincent Abril. He starts alongside Christopher Haase, 2nd in the championship on the front row of the grid. Just behind him, championship leading car of Jordan Pepper with Marcos Seibert looking for redemption in 4th position. His teammate, Julian Hanses, starts just behind him as well, ahead of the Pro-Am pole sitter, Alex Fontana. Look for him to make progress with a slightly healthier car. Mikael Pitamba, last year's race winner, in 7th, ahead of Alam Kader, continuing the Pro-Am battle in 8th position overall. Then comes Yannick Mettler and Carol Basch, SBS and Olymp Racing represented there. Giorgio Giotto and James Kell. Again, another car looking for redemption after late contact yesterday. Lewis Proctor starting just behind his teammate, ahead of Dan Arrow in the Goodspeed Mercedes. Then comes Michele Rugolo for Spirit of Race and the Attempto Racing Audi of Alex Acker. On the 9th row of the grid, yesterday's race winner, Gustav Bergström, starting ahead of Artem Petrov. Closing out the top 20 is Philippe Salakada. They took their first Pro-Am podium yesterday. He starts just ahead of Thomas Eichen, then Bashar Mardini and Mark Wallenwein in the Liepert Lamborghini on the 11th row of the grid. Valentin Pierberg, yesterday's Pro-Am race winner, starts ahead of the Am pole sitter Heiko Neumann. Anthony Bartone and the Am champion in waiting is Giuseppe Cipriani in 26 on the grid. Marco Polcini, new Pro-Am champion of 2024, starts 27th ahead of Kiki Saknana in the Get Speed Mercedes. Then Andre Borodin and Laurent Demeas in 29th and 30th. Michael Blanchimont for SVC in 31st ahead of Emir Naran in the Get Speed Run Vimana Mercedes. Stanislav Jedlinski and then Alberto De Falco, an engine failure on the number 63 Oregon Lamborghini that he shares with Leonardo Polcini, our 2022 champion, having to go from the back of the grid. It's going to be fast, it's going to be furious, it's going to be all about tyre management as well, this one, as it was yesterday, the Spanish sun beating down on this circuit. It is quite a bit warmer than it was yesterday. It was a much earlier race start for us today, and so that means that the track is going to be quite hot out there.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously the drivers now need to make sure that they are well placed for the formation lap, because like we said yesterday, long run down towards turn 1. So Abril's going to have his wits about him. Haase is not going to be relenting heading into the first corner. And you can bet your bottom dollar that Jordan Pepper, obviously in bid to help Alessio De Letta win the title this season. Obviously, it won't be decided right now. We've got Monza to come, a grand occasion, obviously, and for De Letta to really pull it together when we head to the Temple of Speed at his home race, home location. It could be vitally important with how race 2 unfolds here.
Team watching on, Polcini there on the left, Marzio Moretti on the right, eagerly anticipating this race start. Ferrari, Audi, Lamborghini and Mercedes in the top 4. Another wonderful mix of manufacturers here in the International GT Open. Haase hanging back ever so slightly to see if he can get some momentum on the run here. And Vincent Abril is leaving us, eagerly anticipating the start of race number 2 in round 7 of the International GT Open in 2024. We are racing in Barcelona. Vincent Abril gets a good launch, but he is very closely followed by Jordan Pepper in the Oregon Lamborghini. Already some debris flying at the back of the field, and it's side by side between the top 2 in the championship, with Pepper trying to find the inside line. He gets clear of Christopher Haase and into second place. Marcos Seibert trying to find a way around the outside as well. More cars taking the escape road than actually on the racetrack. That is Giorgio Giotto into the gravel on the exit of turn 2. Already disaster for the AF Corsa Run number 25 car.
Yeah, not ideal at all for Giotto, but a great stuff for Pepper, who now leads the race. He's managed to get Vincent Abril, but dances around the outside. Remember, Pepper went off track, possibly gained the place while trying to re-enter onto the circuit, so Abril will take that race lead back. Haase, though, was caught heading in towards turn 1. It was a fantastic effort on part of Jordan Pepper, who found his way through. Still, the cars are now sorting themselves out. Giotto trying to pressurise now Lewis Proctor. Oh, big collision heading through Seat corner. It looks like there's a Motorpark car there as well. The car collection. Porsche in behind it. I think that's Bashar Mardini.
It was. He was the one who instigated all that spinning at turn 5, and I think he collected Marco Polcini there as well, our Pro-Am champion who was crowned yesterday. So disaster for them. But Jordan Pepper was taking absolutely no chances with the potential illegal move. Remember what happened in Paul Ricard when he was the benefactor against Fabian Schiller when he went off at the first corner. But he still has Chris Vaasa for very close company, and Julian Hansers has been able to clear Marcos Seibert as well and get himself ahead of his teammate into 4th position, as Lewis Proctor has got a face full of Goodspeed Mercedes right in front of him going through the 3rd sector. Towards the end of the first lap, James Kell trying to make progress here, and that should be 12th or 13th position. He's just hanging on to their ahead of Philippe Salakada, and more gravel there for the Giorgio Giotto Ferrari, and there is just debris strewn across the track because it seemed to be drama already, and that is a spin for one of the Oregon Lamborghini. Is that the number 19 car, I think, that went round? So I think that was Artem Petrov. Now we'll see, and that is
Mardini.
Yeah, big problems for Bashar Mardini here. That was the car that spun at turn 5. on the first lap and was collected by Marco Polcini, we think it was. And so the cars making their way through, and now the ISR Audi has got the Attempto Audi right behind him, and this looks like more drama for the 63. That was the car that had an engine issue in qualifying and didn't set a lap time, and it seems like all is still not well aboard that car.
No, not at all. Julian Hans is doing a tremendous job, and there's the AF Corsa Ferrari there further back, of course. Marco Polcini in that seat right now. Obviously, remember, not getting the best of qualifying sessions here, but the Pro-Am champion and limping back to the pit lane. Pitamba also on the attack, chasing after Marcos Seibert. Fontana also getting into the mix after that car was repaired to a certain degree after a very tricky moment yesterday. Another car just licking up the gravel. I think that's Alex Arkinaka. Here comes Fontana, heading through Lakea section now and advances past Mikel Pitamba. And Pitamba might lose another place, because here comes in tow Yannick Mettler around the outside as they venture out of turn 12 through towards turn 13 very shortly. And Carol Bash also part of this fight as we now take a view from Lewis Proctor flying through to turn 13 out of Europe car, final bend at 14. They've all sorted themselves out, and Fontana is ahead of Pitamba. Mettler wasn't quite able to do the same.
Yeah, so he's been able to put a car between himself and his nearest class rival. That's crucial for Fontana, who is hoping to have a slightly more straighter pointing car than what he had in qualifying following Hash's incident yesterday. This is problems for the AM pole sitter, though. Heiko Neumann, he's left Michelin rubber down the track, and that is great news for Giuseppe Cipriani, because that is the car that needed to finish ahead of the Il Baron Rampante Lamborghini in order to keep the AM Championship alive.
Yeah, Cipriani, I'm sure, will be delighted with that. Probably doesn't know it yet. Carol Bash, another look down the inside, this time on Yannick Mettler. Two great pro drivers coming toe-to-toe once more. Of course, we know the tenacity of Carol Bash, a former Pro-Am champion here of this series, alongside Marcin Jedlinski. And there is the limping car collection. Porsche, they had a great day yesterday with Menzel and Bergstrom, but it's an early retirement here. As you can see, the damage extensive there on Bashar Mardini's car.
That's a sorry-looking Porsche there, wasn't it? So back out on track then. Beautiful flurry of cars heading through turn number 9. It is Haase trying to pile the pressure on Jordan Pepper. This has got all the shades of Paul Ricard, doesn't it, when we had Abril, Pepper and Schiller all knocking 7 bells out of each other. Well, Haas has joined the fight now. Julian Hanses right there in 4th position, continuing to just amaze in the very early stages of his GT3 career. His first major GT3 competition this weekend. Fell into our hearts yesterday with a truly superb performance, and then breaking them with a spin very late on from 2nd position. But surely that is just the first chapter in what is going to be a very long and successful career for that young German driver. And up at the front of the field, Abril trying to stretch his legs. He's 8.5 tenths clear, and this is Heiko Neumann with a front left puncture on his Motor Park Mercedes, the reigning champions. Now that's got to be the 63, yet they're just coming out to the pit lane right in front of the leading cars, and so he's going to have an awful lot of blue flags being waved at him there, and this is just a test session now for Oregon.
Yeah, lap state even prior to the driver change window that's going to open up later on, of course. Obviously still some racing to get done before that happens, but we've got it happening in around 18 minutes time as we now watch the race unfold further. It is still Abril who leads the way, and a second there separating Abril and Pepper now. So Abril really going to work, trying to advance the delta in order to hand the car over to Nicola Marinangeli when the window does open up, and they can then fight for an eventual victory. Should that be the case, it could be number 2 of the season, and I'm sure it'd be a welcome one for sure. Jordan Pepper, though, still digging deep, is fully aware of the circumstances around the overall championship. We just see the gravel being licked up as well, I think, by the fellow Oregon car. Might have been Fontana, incidentally, who might have just strayed slightly too far, but he still holds the Pro-Am lead as it stands. Marcos Seibert in the car also being pursued by Fontana this time. It's getting nip and tuck between that pairing as they make their way out of turn 10, and further back you've got the 2 Greystones. No, sorry, that is Alex Arkinaka, just actually stood behind James Kell, who is just trying to elevate his placing, of course, still hurting from what happened yesterday.
So here's a replay of the start then side by side between the two championship protagonists, and Haase having to create a little bit of space there for Pepper as he tried to move across the front of the Audi. And look at that, count them, more cars. And there was big contact between Sergio and Bash. I think that's how Sergio ended up in the gravel trap as they were squabbling for position off the racetrack and through the escape road. And it was Sergio right around the outside of two cars there. It was a brilliant launch, but unfortunately it didn't really go much further than that.
Yeah, 3 into 1 is tricky at the best of times at turn 1. It's hard enough, 2 wide, but going 3 wide here at the very start is very brave indeed. And of course, Marco Sibert also had to cut away and follow the Easterlent Audi through as well. It was such a huge start by all involved up at the very front end. Of course, some coming off a little more worse for wear. And there is Sergio just pirouetting off into the gravel trap. Big moment at the start of the race.
Now, I wonder if race control is going to pick up the drivers who didn't go to the left of that bollard, but this is what happened to Mardini. Spin there, clatters
big hit
from Polcini, and then yes, the Motorpark car, Thomas Eichen car. So it's not been a great start for Motorpark. They're down 2 cars at this point, and then that was Pepper rejoining ahead of Abril and then yielding the lead side by side between the two Motorpark teammates, as well as Hans has got his way through on Sibert, who has now got Fontana for very close company. And then right behind them as well, that's the 63, isn't it? That's going to complicate matters, isn't it? Because
already
De Falco, Alberto De Falco is going to, well, if he gets involved in this, he's not going to be making too many friends.
Well, he's thinking of napping himself, isn't he? Obviously, that's his grand concern here at this point. And now making his way out of turn 14. But you can't blame him. I mean, that's his MO. He's got to keep racing. And Polcini will be willing him on, I'm sure, from the garage as well as they head down in towards turn 1 again. The gap starting to advance now between Haase and Hans is further back, but more to come. Motorpark will be somewhat relieved that at least their 2 pro entries are still in with a chance of a fight, but it has compromised that AM Championship for sure.
Yeah, I mean for De Falco, he's 2 laps down. What's he fighting for? So I feel like at this point he's only going to upset people if he does start showing his nose. I mean, it's all fine for now. Top 3 separated by 1.6 seconds. And I said this yesterday, George, but I'll say it again. This is everything that's great about GT3 racing. You've got 2 works drivers in there and 1 sort of affiliated driver. 3 completely different machines. The 3-litre mid-engine twin-turbo V6 coming up against the 5.2-litre mid-engined V10 Lamborghini, and then the similar engine in the Audi as well. But just incredible stuff up at the front of the field as this is on board with De Falco, watching the battle in front of him for 5th position overall between Marco Sibert and the Pro-Am leader Alex Fontana, the car he shares with Hash. He was involved in that incident with Stuart Proctor yesterday. Neither of them coming off well in that one. Both looking for better results today. And incidents at turn 1 and turn 5, no further investigation is necessary. So race control happy with everything that happened there. And so no potential penalties looming over anyone's heads as Abril does yet another fastest lap of the race. And comes across the timing line for the next one. Doesn't quite match it. In fact, fastest lap of the race that time around was Christopher Haase in 3rd position. Took 2/10 out of Jordan Pepper in 2nd place. And now just half a second behind the car that he is fighting the championship for.
Yeah, and the gap advancing between Haase and Hanses as well. It's now 2.6. Sibert fighting to clamber back to within that second. Fontana, though, still chasing him down. It's half a second between the pair. I think we could call ourselves a little fortunate there wasn't a safety car in that opening lap, certainly considering the amount of damage that would have been accrued coming in towards Seat Corner at turn 5 out of turn 4. Certainly a big moment, but nonetheless hasn't affected the front 3. They have carried onwards here with Hanses still digging deep, but Sibert keeping him honest, as is Fontana to him, and Pitamba falling in behind as well. Giorgio Sinighiotto has managed to take on Mark Vollenweide and move up into 19th, so a great effort for the AF Corsa team. A little swap there towards the rear end, just updating as they make their way through the transponder, leaving Sector 1 in towards Sector 2, and again Sibert being tested on the run up through towards Kamsa. A little look up the inside from Fontana this time, just firing yet another warning shot as they head through Kamsa corner and then descend downhill towards turn 10 at Lakea. There is the Blau Motorsport as well of Alam Coder, who is looking to push on, runs a, uses all of that curving. You can just see maximising the speed coming out of Kamsa with the run then taking them down through towards that very progressive left-hander that is Kamsa, that will put strain on that Michelin rubber. And the gap now starting to formulate. Hans is now starting to fight back. A few tenths regathered as we take a look at the East Talent Audi garage.
Yeah, Simon Riker there. He doesn't always look nervous, let's say, but I would give a penny for his thoughts during these races as he watches Christopher Haase go to work. And they are stretching a little bit against Julian Hanses. He's just done his personal best lap of the race, though, and is matching the leader's pace, 2.5 seconds the gap. And Oregon have brought in the number 63. It is a dismal day for De Falco and Leonardo Polcini, who look like they will take no further part in this race.
Yeah, De Falco stepping in, obviously with Rolf van Eycken taking a leave of absence for this one. Obviously, quite a few drivers have partnered Polcini this campaign. Obviously, Maury Bonduel as well earlier on in the season back at Paul Ricard. So, obviously, this is not an occasion they're going to certainly enjoy, but never easy when you're on the end of something like that.
And haven't actually been given an explanation as to why Rolf is not racing this weekend. And it seems that even to some of the team members, it was a bit of a surprise and a very late call. Potentially as to why Rolf van Eycken is not here this weekend. So a bit of a mystery, that one. What isn't a mystery is that Alex Fontana wants to get past Marcos Seeber there, and the Motorpark car kicking up the gravel and giving Fontana a face full of it. Going down that back straight. This is for 5th position overall, and Fontana is being able to pull further away from his class rivals. He is nearly 3 and a bit seconds clear now of Yannick Mettler, 2 cars back, second in Pro-Am. And if he can clear Seeber as well, then he'll be able to stretch that even further. So it's Mercedes versus Porsche going down the front straight once again. Let's see what the Porsche has got in wake, as that's Stanislav Jedlinski being lapped there in the Olymp Ferrari, the AM-entered car. So already coming up on a little bit of traffic. Let's see here, Fontana chasing the back of Seeber. Can't get up the inside into one.
No, he's firing warning shot after warning shot. I'm sure Hash is watching him on and cheering him too at the same time, because it's key that Fontana can break past Seeber, because he's clearly showing that he is the faster car, and he needs to try and advance the time behind, well, obviously ahead of Yannick Mettler, who currently sits further down in P9, just so that they can give themselves somewhat of a buffer so Hash can take over. Car collection off the back of yesterday, obviously winning overall. A Pro-Am win to go along with that, I'm sure, would be huge for the team, who have certainly done immensely well this weekend and have certainly grown into this championship. A little wide there from Seeber, and that's allowed Fontana to have a look, just grazing and rubbing together, coming out of turn 5, and then on the run down towards Verve Curve, Seeber being asked again, as now Fontana has another look. This is a pleasure to watch, and Fontana persevering in a bid to try and take down Seeber, who's weaving to defend as they come over turn 9, down towards turn 10.
That's the first time he's had to make defensive maneuvers. I hope that bodywork hasn't dislodged something and started rubbing up against the tyre, because that's exactly what happened to the Goodspeed Mercedes yesterday with Piotr Vera at the wheel. It caused a puncture, and we saw him spinning yesterday, and so that's why that happened. Now, hopefully that little exchange of paint there hasn't done the same thing to Marcos Seeber. Lord knows he needs to have a clean weekend at this point, because he picked up 2 penalties yesterday, 1 for track limits, the second for hitting James Kell at turn 1. And it has been a very up and down campaign for this Motorpark team. Still looking for that first win of the season, but it's been multiple engine failures that have stopped them starting races and finishing races, and suspension issues in Red Bull Ring last time out as well. Right, the lead gap is over a second for the first time. It's now 1.5, but Haase is still on the back of Pepper here, and the South African is unable to shake the Audi off its coattails.
No, not at all. The gap's still relatively slim, though, and obviously, even if Haase was to give this car in this position, obviously, given the context of where the top 3 currently sit. Then we'll take a look at this replay as well, with Alex Fontana trying to tuck the car, the Swiss driver trying to tackle Marcos Seeber coming out of Seat. very nearly had his number on the run down towards Wirth. And once again, same section of circuit, just showing in the mirrors here of Marco Seibert. Again, Seibert just opening that door a little bit, inviting almost Alex Fontana here, and might have invited him a little too much here. And this time Fontana with a bit of leverage, heading through towards Wirth, daring on the brakes. Fontana now moves up to P5. It was a long time coming. He tried and tested Seibert. This time he was successful.
That's a great move there from Alex Fontana. Was ducking and weaving it side by side for second place, and once again between the two championship contenders as Haase tries to go around the outside but runs out wide, and Pepper is able to hang on to that spot. But this is dicey stuff. Now, when was the last time we saw these two cars that are fighting for the championship actually go wheel to wheel together? And here in the penultimate race of 2024, we are seeing it happen. Pepper versus Haase.
Well, the last time Oregon were chasing the title was back in 2022 when they were chasing the Optimum Motorsport belonging to Joe Osborne and Nick Moss. But a lovely move there from Alex Fontana, making the corner, and a clap rings out back in the garage of Car Collection too. Of course, they've witnessed misery with one car retiring from the race very early, but they'll take a lot of pleasure out of that one. Christopher Haase still working away, trying to close to the back of Pepper. Now, after the two came together at turn 10, it's allowed Pepper to carry onwards. But yes, tremendous scenes here as the two championship protagonists run side by side. Very soon, they will do again, I'm sure. Haase not yet done, will persevere after Jordan Pepper, who's going to look to try and give Deletta the perfect position for this car. Nice bit of track space. Obviously, just allow him to have that free air in order to try and lay claim to some big points in order to tee up a grand finale when we head to his home race at Monza.
And one thing to remember as well, of these top three cars, the only one with handicap is that number one Audi in third position. 5 seconds it still has to take. The two cars in front of him are unhandicapped, so there's a real impetus there for Haase to try and clear Pepper and build an advantage and give his teammate Simon Riker a slightly easier job in the second half of the race. But at the moment, it is proving very difficult to try and clear that car. And this is what happens when you have two works drivers at the peak of their powers in super familiar machinery and being run by two incredible teams. Now that is Seibert struggling for grip a little bit, lighting up those rear Michelins. Look how much speed he's lost against Fontana already. 1.3 seconds, and he was only past a lap ago. These two really starting to push the boundaries of the racetrack. Now both Pepper and Haase were kicking up dust in the final sector. This is Seibert. Yeah, look how much gap he's lost to Fontana, and it won't be long, I'm sure, before Pitamba is on the scene as well. The South African, well, not quite able to match the lap times just yet, but he's closing in ever so slightly. Right, Pepper still there in second place, and Haase trying those different lines. Look how much wider he runs out of turn 3, trying to stay clear of that turbulent air off of the Lamborghini. Yes, we have considerably less downforce in Formula 1 cars, but dirty air is still a thing in any race car that utilizes any amount of downforce. And you see Abril now 2.6 clear of this battle, also unhandicapped, and that 51 machine looking for a second victory of the season. And it's still crazy, we still have so many contenders to make it 8 different winners out there in the field, but right now the top 3, they're all previous winners from the season.
James Kell, I think, also having a moment, because he's dropped down to 20th place and is now detached 5.4 seconds away from the car in front of him, Mark Vollenvine. So clearly an issue there for the Greystone GT McLaren.
Yeah, look at his last lap time, 1:56. So clearly some sort of drama there for the Greystone McLaren.
Yeah, not easy at all. As we now rejoin this fight here in P2, Jordan Pepper still holding his own. Again, Abril advancing that time, 2.6 seconds now between the Oregon Lamborghini and the Ferrari. Daringly, very deep, coming out of turn 13, down towards turn 14. Dan Arrow also under pressure as this time. Lewis Proctor has a little look up the inside. This is the sister Greystone GT McLaren that is currently occupying that P11 spot, one spot outside the points as it stands. Stuart Proctor will be taking over later on, and we'll be hoping that his stint goes a little better than yesterday after having a collision with Hash around turn 10. Of course, Hash will be jumping in the car in the stead of Alex Fontana when that rolls around later on. Of course, Fontana having a good run in P5 as it stands and leading the Pro-Am. There's now a little flash here from Lewis Proctor heading down and towards turn 1. Dan Arrow doing enough to obviously hold on and withstand that pressure. Obviously, points being prizes. Greystone obviously want to try and maximise their weekend as best they can. Alamco there also watching everything happen in behind. Got the best view in the house, really, as he looks to try and close up that gap. But in front, you can see there Mettler still dicing after Carol Bash. Those two great drivers once more coming together, and I believe they've switched.
Yeah, Carol Bash now into second position in Pro-Am ahead of Yannick Mettler. And then this battle for fourth in class happening right behind them as Proctor just flirting with danger there on the exit curb. And it does look like problems for James Kelly. He's pulled into pit lane. And Haas's through. Haas is through into second position on Jordan Pepper, who runs off at turn number 9. Now, how did that happen? And presumably it was a move into turn number 7 from the Audi Works driver, but that's crucial for the championship. It means that they're ahead of the car that they're trying to take points away from. Look at Pepper. What was that about?
Goodness me, a major moment. Obviously, Pepper getting it wrong, heading through Kamsa corner, but then cutting quite a lot of the road coming out of turn 10. I'll be interested to see what race control make of that one.
Well, they are monitoring the track limits there, George.
Yeah, they certainly are. Coming around turn 13 and 14 now. He's now sat behind Haase. Let's look at this again. Fantastic effort from Haase. Got the run out of Earth Curve.
Wow.
Inside, coming through Kamsa. Smooth as you like.
How has he done that? How has he got the speed?
I can only imagine that Pepper probably lost a little bit of momentum coming up Verth. That's the only way possible that could have happened. Haase, doing all the right things, was able to carry the speed up through towards turn 9 and then led the way on the run down to turn 10.
Now the real work starts. 1 minute 20 until the driver change window opens. Or it's less than that now. It's a minute's time. And they'll extend it as long as possible. But until Haase comes into the gap, he's got to try and build that gap to Pepper as much as possible to negate those 5 seconds of handicap that the number 1 car is carrying. And yeah, already pulling 1 second over Pepper. And this could make Simon Riker's life considerably easier. Is that Fontana already on the back of Hanses as well? This is Artem
3/10.
This is Artem Petrov in. Change window isn't on though, but he's getting a new set of tyres.
Intriguing.
Yes, that's an interesting call there. Driver change window is definitely not open. They were changing multiple tyres there, which makes me think it wasn't just a puncture on that car. So very curious as to why Artem Petrov was pulled into pit lane, but didn't see Marzio Moretti anywhere trying to clamber aboard. So interesting one there. Battle for 4th position now. Fontana really is showing the speed that he wanted to have in qualifying and has already got himself on the back of the first of the Motor Park cars in 4th position. Julian Hanses, who continues to shine in his first appearance in the championship. Former Carrera Cup racer, of course, but now in GT3 competition. Driver change window is open, and Hanses comes in to hand over to Lucas Dunner. Now, this is slightly further back. This is Laurent Demeus, Andre Borodin, and Michael Blanchimont. And one of those cars took the correct route around the track.
Taking the escape, more and more cars now coming in. Lewis Proctor has also been handed a last warning for track limits at turn 13. So race control have ushered that in. Of course, he's in the fight against Dan Arrow right now. Christian Korzanowski stepping in place of Stanislav Jedlinski, who did the opening stint in the Ferrari 296 for Olymp Racing. Of course, their sister car, which is the Audi R8 LMS, is still out on track and in a huge fight with Yannick Mettler, and obviously Bash managing to get ahead of Mettler. And now in comes yesterday's race winners. Of course, Gustav Bergström will be jumping out. Nico Menzel taking the place. Lucas Dunner hopping in for Julian Hanses, who comes in early, obviously allowing Dunner to do the rest. And in comes Bartone for Fabian Schiller. And
before we get too many stops, just a quick update in AM. It's Kiki Saknana in the 786 Get Speed Mercedes, leading Giuseppe Cipriani by 1 second. I think as it stands, that would be enough for Cipriani to wrap up the title. But of course, lots to come in the second half of the races. Those 3 cars we were watching earlier, Borodin, Blanchimont, and Demeus, all head into pit lane as well. 3 gentleman class drivers handing over to their pros. And very different approaches to the pit lane entry there from the 2 cars. So it'll be Jim Pla getting aboard the Scuderia Villorba Corsa Mercedes. There, Ollie Webb aboard the Greystone GT McLaren, and Jamie Stanley in the AF Corsa Run Ferraris. There goes Nico Menzel in the blue Porsche, yesterday's race winner, just leaving the pit lane there. They're going to come out behind our race leaders, so a lap down. Abril 3.3 clear, and matching Haase on lap times to the 10th. that time around, and Pepper losing half a second as into the pits comes Marcos Seibert to hand over to Diego Menchaca as well from 4th position. That unleashes Alex Fontana behind him.
Could lead to a very fascinating final stint with Marin Angeli against Riker when the pit stop phase unfolds for them as well.
And Deleda.
Yeah, and Deleda too. We've got Marcos Seibert coming in. Diego Menchaca will step into the car right now. So that Mercedes AMG that was involved in that scrap with James Kell yesterday. Obviously still more issues for the Greystone GT McLaren outfit that we saw in the pit lane just now. More and more cars now flying upwards as now in comes Kiki Saknana looking to come into box. Giuseppe Cipriani staying out. Remember, he's flying solo here in this round, but will have to serve handicap time to obviously make up for the fact that he is the sole runner here in this race.
Yeah, the most handicapped car was actually the 27, but that's actually retired from the race, so we don't even need to worry about that one. Of course, the car collection portion was having to take 10 seconds as a result of their win yesterday. And the Anthony Bartone car we saw in pit lane was taking 5 seconds after finishing 2nd yesterday. Right, here's our race winner then. Oh, kicking out the back end of the Spirit of Race Ferrari. He's definitely pushing out there. And we've heard drivers complaining all weekend long that there just isn't an awful lot of grip out there this weekend, and they are having to nurse these cars round and really having to think on their feet a little bit. And so the 786 car, this is the car that was leading in AM when it came into pit lane. Adam Osaka, the team boss at Get Speed, now aboard the car. As with still 8 minutes left on the driver change window, I have a feeling that Abril, Haase, Pepper and co are going to be out there for some time still.
Yeah, no doubt. We now watch them still make their way around this circuit. 32 minutes still to go. Driver change window in full procedure. We've got now into the final 8 minutes of it remaining. Tom Jackson stepping in for Amir Naran in the Vimana by Get Speed Mercedes. There is Haase still out in the #1 Audi R8 LMS now. Could this be their moments, obviously, to help themselves to a potential advantage leading through to the Italian weekend when we go to Monza next month? Of course, it'd be such a grand occasion for Easterland Audi, who were persevering for this very title last year. And of course, it did go the way in terms of the team's affair, hence why they're running the #1 on the side of the car, but also at the same time they want to win the drivers, and that's exactly what's key. Peter Riker, so ambitious as a team owner, manager, and looking to try and help them to yet more success. Jordan Pepper, though, still digging deep, but he's lost so much time. 3.4 now in behind Christopher Haase, and Alex Fontana also a little bit further behind too, but still holding that Pro-Am lead as it stands with Karel Basch now 8.3 in behind him. Yannick Mettler also tailing off slightly from behind Basch. Remember, that was a battle that was fought out not too long ago, and just look at the deficits as far as the Delta's concerned. Pepper losing very nearly, well, a couple of tenths, you're talking a second here at this point. So obviously Pepper, I think, struggling perhaps with that tyre wear.
And lead gap is starting to come down. I don't think it's just that, George. I think Haas is just flying out there. He was 2 tenths quicker than Abril a lap ago. He was nearly 4 tenths quicker on that previous lap, and so the gap now down to 2.7, and he's pulled nearly over 4 seconds over Jordan Pepper. So he's almost built that gap he needs to negate the handicap already, and it was only a few laps ago that he cleared the Lamborghini factory driver, who, it must be said, isn't fully happy with how the Lamborghini is performing here this weekend. They are struggling for pace. Everyone's kind of struggling for grip generally, but it seems like this Lamborghini is not firing on all cylinders in terms of its performance.
No, not at all. Now more work being undertaken as the driver change window opens up. Still Oregon team with cars in the garage. Motor Park doing the same with Marzio Moretti stepping into the Oregon car now with Artem Petrov jumping out. Timo Rompkar will take the place in the AM car. Obviously Heiko Neumann. Remember, this car was sat coming into this race P2 in the championship. Obviously 76 points. We're not including drop scores as in that total just yet. Obviously Cipriani quite a ways ahead in terms of the overall points without the drop scores so far. Lucas Dunn has set in the fastest lap after jumping in the place of Julian Hans as he came in very early into the driver change stint. there is, of course, Jordan Pepper, who will be handling over to Alessio Toledda, and he's got in behind Nico Menzel, who is putting in, I'm sure, a huge drive in his own right and a bit to bring car collection yet more success after winning yesterday for the first time this campaign. A lot of history being made this weekend so far.
Menzel a lap down, but Fontana only 2 seconds behind him. In comes the race leader then. 5 minutes left on the driver change window, and he is going to hand over to Nicola Marinangeli for the second half of this race. The weight on young Marinangeli's shoulders now after Abril has been untouchable all day long in qualifying and so far in this race. As the driver change window happens there, fresh set of Michelin rubber on all 4 corners for the team. I love watching the two-man crews go to work there on a pit stop like this. Yeah, Formula One teams being able to change tyres in 2 seconds flat is, you know, it's great when they have 12 people working on a corner, but 2 people going toe-to-toe around a car like that, absolutely love it. And Dunner is continuing to fly out there. He is the top of the runners who have brought their cars into pit lane, so he leads Menchaca and Baumann and Menzel, but of course we still have plenty of cars up at the front of the field who are yet to do their mandatory pit stop just yet. Haase now into the lead, and he's very nearly pulled those 5 seconds that he's going to have to serve as handicap in the pit stop.
You're looking at a very different example of a pit stop procedure when we took a look at that, that's for sure. As we now see the car now venture back out onto the track. Nicola Marinangeli, of course, now at the helm of the AF Corsa Ferrari outfit. Of course, Mark, we saw AF Corsa obtain success through Pro-Am, of course, fairly recently. In comes Giuseppe Cipriani, current championship leader in AM, and could be on the cusp of taking the title as he crosses the line. Obviously, first and foremost, needs to get through the final 27 and 17 here in this race. But we're now watching Haase still persevere up at the front, gapping Pepper still. The last lap, 1:43, 1:54 for Christopher Haase. It was a 1:44, 1:07 for the lap before this one for Jordan Pepper. We'll see where he sits now as he crosses the line. It's a 1:44.361 this time, and now unlapping himself is Nico Menzel, or trying to anyway. Could not quite do it coming out of turn 1. Will still try though, coming out of turn 2. He might get the run heading through towards turn 3. Outside as well, further back, we have got, of course, the sister car collection belonging to Alex Fontana. So Pepper has a little bit of a Porsche problem on his hands. Yeah,
I mean, Pepper's really struggling out there now, stuck in the 44s, such as the pace as Fontana trying to find his way through. Of course, he's got his teammate between them, and this is not doing either of those cars a favour, and he's defending against the Porsche that is a lap behind, and Fontana very nearly making contact with his teammate. As this could get messy very quickly. I wonder what the message at car collection is going to be. Should Menzel give up the spot there? Because he's trying to make his way through for pro position as well. And so when Pepper comes into pit lane, they may well be squabbling later in the race. Alessandro Cozzi now getting aboard the Giorgio Sernicchiotto car. That's had a few trips through the gravel trap so far in this race, but still continuing to circulate. And we see where Marinangeli comes out in relation to Dunner as well. On the timing screen, he should be at 4.5 seconds clear of Lucas Dunner. And so that's incredibly tight. Yeah. Between a car that was in first and one that was in fourth. And so that'll be interesting. In comes Jordan Pepper and Alex Fontana as well. And in comes Haase.
Yeah, Haase coming into the pits, leading them through as well. Very minute minutes left in the driver change window, 1:27, so no way could he go out and do another lap. It would have exceeded the allocated time they would have had to come in and make the change. And look at that, Alessandro Cozzi just whipping the tail out, got very close to contact with the Audi R8 LMS. We've had a couple of rounds now where we've seen unsafe pit releases become a prevalent issue in the pits of the International GT Open. So obviously race control scrutinising those moments. Of course, Motorpark were involved in something like that not too long ago, and which did not end well for them whatsoever. Out comes Karel Bash, in comes Marcin Jedlinski at the Olymp Racing Audi team, and then of course Alan Coder, Marcello Hahn hopping in to the AF Corsa blue Ferrari 296. Tyre changes in full flow. Up at the top of the shop, it's still Riker in accordance to our timing screen, but all eyes now on Nico Marinangeli, who is going to come out of turn 13 and 14. Now let's see where he sits, because of course Deletter's going to be hopping into his car. We also have to look at Simon Riker, though. Riker's the key one, because of course he did gap, or have a gap, to the likes of Jordan Pepper not too long ago after Haas's stint, but Marinangeli will withstand it, hold on to that lead of the race, and now they will look to persevere. And there's a couple of cars in between here and Riker.
Dunner's through into second position, so he's cleared the Haas Riker Audi, and Delena dropping into fourth position there. Dunner is now in second position, and I'll tell you what as well, he is lapping faster than Marinangeli as it stands. The gap is 3.3 seconds. Could we still be on for an 8th different winner of the season in the form of Lucas Dunner and his new teammate for this weekend, Julian Hanses, after that incredible first stint? But he's got to clear that Tom Jackson car first. And a 3-second time penalty for the Andre Borodin and Ollie Webb, Greystone McLaren, for not following the race director notes there. So that is the 24 car. First penalty coming through of the race there. So that's going off track and gaining an advantage technically.
8th different winner would coincide nicely with the 11 different pole sitters we've had so far this campaign.
What a season, George. I'm absolutely loving this. Right, let's keep an eye on the sector times, though, because last time around it was 43.0 for Dunner, which was, I think, about a second quicker than Marinangeli as he's finding his feet out there, whereas, of course, Dunner's been out there longer than Marinangeli has. That was one of the first cars to come into pit lane. Gap is now 2.9, and it's close in the middle sector, but in the first sector he took a big chunk out of him as Riker is trying to find his feet as well. His first laps in the Audi in this race, and does have the Tom Jackson car just in front of him on track, but a lap down.
Yeah, Marcello Han now moving up to 10th place as Stuart Proctor will no doubt be in the car in place of Lewis. Remember, that car was given a last warning for track limits at turn 13. Nico Menzel ahead of Gino Forgione as well as they move past the pit lane and head up through towards turns 1 and turns 2. Simon Riker going to work 2.1, just in behind Lucas Dunner. Dunner putting in a grand stint since entering the car. Of course, Hans is boxing earlier than anyone else in the top 5, and therefore looking to persevere. In behind as well, Christian Korzanowski now at the helm of the Ferrari 296 Olymp Racing car, but of course they've got some ground to cover because Stanislav Jedlinski was lapped under racing conditions before the driver change window took place. We'll take a look now at a replay. Now this is Stuart Proctor, Marcello Han up the inside, wheel to wheel. A little bit of grazing perhaps coming out of Seat, but a nice smooth move from Marcello Han. I
don't know, there was any contact in the end there, so a nice move from Marcello Han there, and he moves himself up into 4th position in Pro-Am and 10th position overall, but that is the lead battle that is now down to 2.5 seconds. Marinangeli still lapping in the 43s, Dunner in the 42s. That number 96 car has 2 drivers in it that Motorpark has helped find a home in GT racing. 2 drivers who, you know, let's not mince words, weren't doing anything spectacular because they weren't able to race. Dunner didn't race for 2 years. Yeah, and he came back with a vengeance at this track last year, and Hanses as well wasn't able to do much. You know, you hear drivers all the time struggling with sponsorship, but Motorpark is finding a home for these young drivers, and they're flying.
But a special topic of note is the fact that they both shared the grid together in the Euro Formula Open Championship, and they were both, of course, products of the Motorpark crew as well. So, you know, once again, back under the Motorpark banner, representing here in the International GT Open, and aren't they doing it well at this stage? Currently sat P2 in our timing screen, 2.6, just behind Nicola Marinangeli, and the last lap was in the favour, though, however, of Nicola Marinangeli, only by mere thousandths between them, though, however. Last lap, though, as far as Dominic Baumann and Alessio Deletta is concerned, Baumann closing on Deletta as time goes on. So it might be further difficulties here for the Oregon team. Lamborghini sat in 4th. Baumann on a mission at a circuit where both he and Pitamba were so successful in last season.
I mean, incredible stuff again. 20 minutes to go then in this penultimate race of the 2024 International GT Open. that could be a very decisive one indeed in terms of determining the championship. We have a battle for the lead between Marinangeli and Dunne. Behind them, the championship battle taking place between Simon Riker and Alessio De Leda, split by 2.5 seconds. And then Baumann and Menchaca squabbling over 5th position as well, with I think Menchaca lapping slightly quicker than Baumann as it stands. And now Riker, he's getting caught up here behind the Tom Jackson Vimana Get Speed Run Mercedes. And now Riker's got to be so careful here. The last thing he needs is a trip up over a lapped car.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll only hold him up as well. De Leda, despite losing time to Dominic Baumann, obviously it's more about trying to close up to the back of Lucas Dunne and Marinangeli for the lead of the race. So needs to try and get past Tom Jackson as soon as possible. And Christian Korzanowski is following all this too. So you never know, he could become a factor. Here comes Riker. Now looking to try and dodge and weave past Tom Jackson. Does so brilliantly. Korzanowski also looking to unlap himself as well, just making his way through past the Vimana by Get Speed Mercedes, now running in towards turn 1. Fabian Schiller has got himself past Gino Forgione, and also Nico Menzel breaking away from Stuart Proctor, moving up into 11th place. So 1 place away from getting into the overall points-paying position, but he's got to catch up. With there, of course, is Marcelo Hahn, who sits in 10th so far, and there is a gap of 5.4 for Menzel to unlock here at this stage. Dunne still going to work here, and I must say his times have been impressive over the last lap. It was a 1:43.373 for Marinangeli, 1:42 though, 8:56 for Lucas Dunne, who's finding his feet, and he's fast. Certainly out on track, not quite as fast as Marinangeli in the first sector on this lap, but you never know, we've still got 2 sectors to run.
Yeah, last time around took another half a second out of him, and the gap really coming down now. It's now 2.1 seconds, and this has just been Lucas Dunne really starting to find some form now. He had a fantastic race weekend at the Red Bull Ring, his home race. They're the man from Vienna in Austria, 22 years old. But after we saw him compete in the Euroformula Open Championship, just sort of disappeared from the racing scene. He did a little bit of rallying, but then right up until the end of last year, the Barcelona finale, where he made a wildcard appearance with the Motorpark team, hadn't done any racing. He's been getting himself back up to speed, running an Asian Le Mans series during the winter and running here in the International GT Open and really finding a home. And I'm sure that Julian Hanses is going to feel the same way, who may well become a race winner in his first race weekend if Dunne can close in on Marinangeli and get the move done. Now, there's a famous line in racing: catching is one thing, passing is another. 17 minutes on the clock, 1.9 between the top 2.
It's like Bobby George said in the world of darts, it's trebles for show, doubles for dough, as they always say. And at the moment, it's Marinangeli who's going to be taking all the dough so far, 1.9 seconds, but Dunne is closing, and relentlessly too. In the last lap, just under 2/10 gain, just over 1.5 seconds, or just around 1.5 tenths of a second, I should say, of the realm. But he is in view and in picture. He's just managed to bring it in again. It's 1.8 now between Marinangeli and Dunne, who can now, I think he has full visibility of this Ferrari in front. It's giving him that extra drive and obviously that little bit of confidence to now start maximising each one of these laps. He's got 16 minutes and 25 to do this, and this could be a huge victory for Dunne and Hanses in Hanses' debut weekend, and especially after the upsetting way it ended yesterday.
It would definitely make up for it, wouldn't it? Marinangeli is starting to find his feet out there. It was only 0.2 of a second that Dunne took out of him last time around, but the Italian has got to be oh so perfect for the final quarter or so of this race now. Right, in Pro-Am, this is the battle for the lead, with Hash in 7th position overall, and on board here with Dexter Muller in the car barn by SPS Mercedes, fighting for the lead in class by the looks of it. Now that gap was 1.1 seconds, and so it's really come down on this lap. We have a 5-second time penalty for car 25, but it's now going to be side by side for the lead of the race in Pro-Am. Hash defends to the inside, Dexter Muller to the outside. Muller trying to find his way through on the left-hand side. Now Dexter Muller, a very familiar face in the International GT Open, now trying to go around the outside of turn number 12. Hash, still in his first year of racing, let alone anything in GT3. Was running in the 24-hour series with Fontana, and Dex's teammate, actually, Yannick Mettler. The irony, Dexter's teammate has helped the man in front of him develop his racing career, and now they're fighting for the lead in class. Incredible stuff.
And it could be yet a first Pro-Am race win, should they carry this one home as well. Over the last couple of rounds, they've taken P3s in the championship. And look further back, we've got Marcin Jedlinski, also part of this, a former Pro-Am champion alongside Karel Bach in years gone by. If you look back at the realms of 2022, where they would take the championship during the course of that season in that big fight with Adam Christodoulou, as well as Rima Jafali as well, whose championship run came to an end off the back of a huge crash at Hungaroring. Further back, we've got more cars battling it out. Marcello Han also trying to bring himself into this fight too, and they're bringing along Nico Menzel, who isn't in the Pro-Am fight, but yet could cause a complication in terms of the Pro-Am scrap.
Yeah, so Menzel will find his way through on this lot quite quickly, I'd have thought. But of course, that could break things up, could create opportunities for one of the drivers to try and slip through. I'm sure Yannick is on the radio to Dex, coaching him through it. I'm sure Fontana is doing the same thing to Hash as well. But this is great stuff. Once again, the Pro-Am battle really giving us a treat here. 19 cars with the withdrawal of the Pelin Racing car that we have in Pro-Am for this weekend. Big defensive maneuver from Hash, though. That might be defending clean air ever so slightly, and Muller recognises it straight away, really closes up on the back of the Porsche, but cannot do anything with that. And this is what racing in the International Open gives you. It's a perfect learning curve for amateur drivers. And look, all the way through in the Pro-Am field at the moment, the top 10 cars all being the AM drivers at the moment. And so it is less than a second or so that covers the top 3 in class, with Jedlinski right in there as well. But Menzel is going to come and disrupt the party, and I'm sure that Muller will want to get that move done as early as possible. The SBS run Carbahn Raceworks team going for their first victory of the season, as is Car Collection in the Pro-Am category.
Yeah, certainly are, and Car Collection looking to make it at least another victory to coincide with their big overall win yesterday. But of course it would mean all the more as well for Yannick Meckler and Dexter Muller. Of course, the Swiss pairing in behind this Porsche. Of course, it's Alex Fontana, who's also a resident Swiss driver, obviously trying to coach Hash to try and defend against his fellow countryman of sorts. Further back, Marcin Jedlinski also digging deep. In comes now Nico Menzel, obviously just trying to move his way through the field, not part of the Pro-Am battle, but just trying to move his way through just so he can get himself some clean air, but denied by Marcin Jedlinski on the run out of Seat.
But what team are those two Porsches from? Car Collection. I'm sure one's going to be helping the other there, as Menzel really had a bit of a swapper on the exit of turn 5, trying to avoid the back of Marcin Jedlinski. Not sure if he quite got the no! Muller's round from second position in Pro-Am. So unfortunate for the Carbahn Raceworks driver. Unbelievable stuff. He does get it going again. He's pirouetted the car. Disaster, though, for Dexter Muller.
He got up onto the curb coming up through Verth. It unsettled the car. He had a swapper. He was trying to twist the wheel for traction, but could not quite find it. Alan Coder has also come into this as well. Obviously, or should I say Marcello Han, who is now behind the wheel. Anthony Barto now handing over to Fabian Schiller, who's moving.
Whoa! Big shunt.
Alessandro Cosi.
For the number 25 AF Corsa Ferrari. Down at turn number 5, the leaders coming through there. That will, at the very least, surely be a safety car to get that car cleared. A lot of damage to Alessandro Cozzi's car. Well, we're continuing as it stands, but we sincerely hope that Alessandro is okay after a big shunt at turn number 5.
Visibility, certainly the damage.
Safety car has come out unsurprisingly, and so that is going to close up the gap between Marinangeli and Dunner. But with 11 minutes left on the clock, depending on how long it takes to clear that car and clear the track, I wonder if Marinangeli has just been given a bit of a reprieve there, because the gap was down to 1.6. We're going to see what happened here. Oh! Whoa, a speed off the road. Contact with the barriers, lost count of how many times it spun round there, has torn off both of the left-hand side wheels off that Ferrari 296. There is debris strewn across the racetrack as we see again the moment for Dexter Muller and Marcin Jedlinski having to take to the gravel. Good heads-up driving from Nico Menzel, who got on the anchors pretty quickly there as well as the Mercedes was coming back across the racetrack. But my goodness me, real drama in the Pro-Am standings there.
Yeah.
Bouncing over the curbs. Wow, it's so close for Jedlinski.
so frustrating as well for Dexter Muller, who looked to be in the fight here for this Pro-Am victory. But the car's now settling down into a steady pace. And yes, the gap between Marinangeli and Dunner is going to be brought well within. It's now within a second. It certainly will be now, because obviously we're under safety car this time. And Simon Riker also in this fight. And it's also brought in Alessio Delena. So once again, the two championship contenders will be brought closer together. And should we get back underway again, you know, there'll be an immense fight right down to the checkered flag line, but there's quite a lot of debris to clear up from around turn 5. And obviously the car not quite making it to turn 5 in Alessandro Cosi's case, obviously making impact with the barriers. And obviously Giorgio Sinagiotto watching on and awaiting news, no less, as to seeing if everything's okay. But yeah, truly, you know, unbelievable scenes here with 9 minutes or so to go. And there's
that
Cosi.
is so good to
great
see.
to see. Great to see. Just look at the debris on the side there,
Look
obviously
at
off the barrier
as well. That's going to be a lengthy repair. Oh, George, I hate to say it. I don't think we're going to get running again. With 9 minutes left on the clock, still.
It's going to be
the
tight.
Barrier to repair, the car to clear, lots of debris. But of course, the main thing
is that
seeing Alessandro Cosi
okay.
outside of the car and walking away from that one, because that was a
huge crash.
Scary looking shunt, and relief inside the AF Corsa garage, of course.
Well, the last time we saw anything like that was Rolf van Eycken back at Spa. Obviously, we were glad to see him come out okay of that one. Obviously, he was on the sidelines for a while, but it looks like with Alessandro Cosi walking away, he looks in good shape, which is something, and confirmation from obviously race control as well, saying driver is okay and out of the car. We did, of course, witness Cosi walking across, and will make his way over to the barriers. The marshals now, I'm sure, hard at work, just trying to repair whatever's left. But obviously, like you so rightly say, Chris, extensive damage to that Tech Pro barrier, and also the amount of debris that was left off that Ferrari 296. It was littered across the gravel trap coming in towards turn 5 on the escape from turn 4. Again, just relieved that Alessandro Cosi's okay.
There's Vincent Abril there, of course, a big smile on his face, because I think he's realised that they are very much set for a second victory of the season now in the 51 Spirit of Race AF Corsa Run crew with Nicola Marinangeli. Lucas Dunner is going to be kicking himself. I mean,
he's driven brilliantly.
There's nothing that they could have done about that.
No, not at all.
We might be getting a bit ahead of ourselves. There is Thomas Eichen there in the Motorpark Mercedes.
And we will be, of course, confirming, I would say, championship victory as well for Cipriani. I think
That's what I make it. So Timo Rovkal, 4th for Team Motorpark at the moment. So that would give them 82. Kiki Satnana and Amado Moseka on 84, with Giuseppe Cipriano on 104. 20-point lead, 20 points still available for the double points Enduro finale in Monza. And so that should crown Cipriani champion. So we see some beautiful slow-mo shots, some pit stop ASMR, as I called it, in Hockenheim. Great stuff.
Storytell.
From the camera crews. Well, I'll tell you what, George, you want a story? I'll give you a story. I think that Alessio Delena, Christopher Haase and Simon Riker will be level on points going into Monza for the finale. You could not make it up, could you, George? This season.
I call it a blockbuster, Chris Stevens. And I honestly have to tell you, folks, we've had some amazing finales in the past. I mean, I'm sure Leonardo Polcini can tell you one. Of course, we had the scenes in Parc Ferme with he and Benji Hites standing on top of the Team Oregon Lamborghini. And then after that, of course, we witnessed the drama unfolding in the paddock after the end of last year's race here at Barcelona as well, where, of course, it was, delayed celebrations on the Easter Lent Audi side. But obviously, they went on to become team champions. Charlie Fagg, of course, and Sam Dahan eventually becoming drivers' champions. And now this season, we come into a scenario where everything is pretty much square, leading through to one solitary enduro race around the Temple of Speed. I mean, there's very few magical locations in the world, but I tell you what, I place Monza at the very highest of it. I mean, it's sensational. I mean, what a location to take the grand finale to. And I must say, Buy your popcorn now, folks.
I wish the viewers could see the smile on my face. I really do. It's just amazing stuff. And, you know, we come here, we are fans of the sport, obviously. We get to talk about it for a living. And when you get the chance to have these kind of scenarios, have fantastic racing and the championship fights we've had over the years, boy, it does make it special indeed. Right, less than 5 minutes left on the clock then. Let's just run through how things stand. Nicola Marinangeli for Spirit of Race in the Ferrari 51 car leads Lucas Dunner in the Motorpark Mercedes. Simon Riker third for East Talent, who should now retake the championship lead. Of course, Countback, if they're level on points, Countback would be in East Talent's favour, as they've had 4 wins to Deleda's 2 so far this year. In Pro-Am, Hash should be looking good now in 7th position overall. 2 cars between himself and Marchand Jedlinski after that moment for Dexter Muller just before the safety car, with Marcelo Hahn now in 3rd position in the Blau Motorsport AF Corsa run car. In AM, Adam Osaka in the 786 Get Speed Mercedes leads car shares with Kiki Saknina and Giuseppe Cipriani second in AM, which should give him the championship there, with Christian Kozanowski in 3rd and then Timo Rumfkar. Reigning champions there in the number 65 car would be 4th, and confirmation, the Provisional Drivers' Championship, it would be level on points, 100 points each. And I'll tell you what, Abril and Marinangeli are not fully out of it as well, with double points on offer, so 30 for the win. If something were to happen to our top 2, then who knows, maybe the 51 crew could sneak through and win it, but oh, what a setup, what a setup.
Goodness me.
If they wrote this for a movie, you'd be rejected for being too ridiculous.
You probably would be. I mean, you know, it's sensational first and foremost. I mean, congratulations as well to Nicola Marinangeli. I mean, I've had the fortune also of watching him come through out of single-seaters, and obviously he's taken part in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Obviously then took part in the Euro Formula Open Championship too, and was with us under the GT Sport Organisation banner, racing for Van Amersfoort during the season of 2022, and was just looking to find himself almost in racing, and then all of a sudden stumbling into the GT3 side of things has really come alive. And obviously last season there was a few teething things here and there. Obviously he was under the tuition of Riccardo Agostini last season whilst racing for AF Corsa, now under Spirit of Race this campaign. Race will confirm, folks, will finish behind the safety car to take the checkered flag, no overtaking, so Marinangeli will go ahead to take victory alongside Vincent Abril. But with Vincent Abril alongside him too, he has come on such a huge amount. If you compare the driver now to where he was last year, and even before that, it has been such a rise. So well done, Nico Marinangeli, and next month is going to be a very special weekend for them. Both, well, you got Marinangeli, the Italian, racing for an Italian team and an Italian circuit, and Deleda doing exactly the same. And look at them all embracing themselves together.
And of course, they won when it was Ricky Agostini he was sharing the car with last year, so another Italian driver. They won on the road last year.
Yeah.
They had it taken away from them with a post-race penalty. So this would be win number 3 for Marinangeli in the GT Open, win number 6 for Vincent Abril and their second as teammates, following on from the very wet Paul Ricard race a few weeks ago. Julian Hanses there, just standing up on the right-hand side, is about to become a podium finisher in his first weekend, his biggest GT race, but the biggest race weekend of his life.
Could have so easily been a winner, though.
It could have been a win, but for Lucas Dunner, he will also come across. I think this will be his first win. Podium as well.
It is.
No, yes,
yeah.
It is. And again, another driver who's just been going from strength to strength. We've been denied the 8th different winner for now, but oh my goodness. And of course,
you never know, we might get one at Monza.
You know, yeah, we might. You know, these endurance races, they do prop up some surprises. We are now on the final lap of the race, and only the worst luck in the world with the technical gremlin can prevent Marinangeli and Abril now.
Well, this will be the easiest lap of Marinangeli's life here at
Yes,
this point. I mean,
but also potentially, in an odd way, the most nerve-wracking.
yeah, that too. I mean, you'd be hoping and praying that everything stays intact on the car, first and foremost.
Every little rattle or not odd little noise.
He's going to start hearing.
I don't know what that is.
But we've got to talk about the AM Championship.
We do, yes. Giuseppe Cipriani has been just the absolute foreman in the Il Baron Rampante Lamborghini. He has taken, 3 wins in the AM Championship, but only been off the podium once all season long. Was the winner of the Spa Enduro as well, the double points race there, really helping him out in the standings. And with the second double points race to go, it looks like he is going to wrap up the AM Championship. And he has beaten the reigning champions of Team Motorpark, Heiko Nomen and Timo Rumpf-Kyle, and of course the Get Speed pairing of Adam Osaka and Kiki Saknana as well. So it has been a real impressive drive all season long from Giuseppe Cipriani, and running solo in that car as well. He's been doing a fantastic job.
And we've also got to say congratulations to Hash on taking a first Pro-Am win well at this point. That's another win for Car Collection this weekend, because they had Gustav Bergstrom and Nico Menzel winning yesterday, Porsche winning again this time in race 2 at Barcelona. Vincent Abril beaming.
Look at that
big smile on his face.
Absolutely love it. And yeah, just another word on Hash. We say it again, first year of racing. Not just his first year in GT3 racing.
Just racing
first
overall.
Year racing.
Incredible.
For him, the American 51-year-old sharing the car with Alex Fontana. So incredible stuff with getting the help from Fontana and Yannick Mettler as well. But right now, it's all about spirit of race. It's all about the 51 car. The safety car peels into the right-hand side, and it will be, for the second time in 2024, the Spirit of Race number 51 crew of Nicola Marinangeli and Vincent Abril that takes victory in race 2. And the AF Corsa garage erupts for the 51 crew. The best weekend of Julian Hans's life concludes with a maiden podium finish in the International GT Open, with Lucas Dunner bringing the number 96 car home in second position, and Simon Riker brings the East Talent Racing Audi home on the podium to make it level on points between himself and Alessio Deleda to decide the title in Monza. And applause for Giuseppe Cipriani, our 2024 AM champion.
Huge congratulations, a long legacy in the International GT Open, but the Italian is back. Giuseppe Cipriani, champion again here in the International GT Open in AM classification. Well done to him. I'm sure he'll enjoy that along with the rest of the Il Baroni Rampante team. And what I do want to add on to this as well, that's back-to-back this weekend that we've had pole to victory so far. First time it's happened this season, but that means we've got 4 overall this campaign.
Here are the results then from race number 2. Second victory of the season for Marinangeli and Abril, and a first podium for both Dunner and Hanses in second position. Riker and Haase now level on points with Deleda as they finish 3rd and 4th. Baumann and Pitamba 5th in the M, and Chaka and Siebe in 6th. First Pro-Am victory for Hash and Alex Fontana. Car Collection making it 2 wins after their overall win yesterday. Gustav Bergstrom and Nico Menzel 8th in the end, with Barton and Schiller in 9th. Barchan Jedlinski and Karol Bash 2nd of the Pro-Am runners in 10th position overall, with Marcelo Han and Alam Kader in the Blau Motorsport car joining them on the podium. What could have been for Dexter Muller after that spin. He finished 4th in class in the end, ahead of the Proctors, Scholzer and Acker in the Tresso Attempter Racing Audi, with ISR in 15th, Stromstad and Naikin in 16th, Pierberg and Walker in 17th, Vera and Arrow 18th, Valenvine and Blasek, and then Forgione and Rugolo completing the top 20. And win going to Kiki Saknana and Adam Osaka, but was 2nd in class for Giuseppe Cipriani. He rounds up the championship. We lost James Kell, De Falco, Polcini and Bashar Mardini from that race. And confirmation in the championship standings. Christopher Haase and Simon Riker, level on points on countback, are ahead of Alessio Deleda as they've had 4 wins to Deleda's 2. What a mouth-watering prospect for the Monza double points endurance finale. But don't discount Vincent Abril and Nicola Marinangeli, because that win today has kept them within an arm's reach of the championship. And look at Avril. He is absolutely beside himself with Marinangeli. And that safety car really... there he goes.
Fantastic.
That's going to be a great photo for the Instagram later, isn't it? And yeah, you cannot enjoy the dynamic between these two more. Vincent is absolutely loving driving with Marinangeli at the moment. But wow, if Julian Hanses wasn't already your favorite GT Open driver after one race, he probably is now. And look at the scenes down there as well. This might be the happiest podium of the year. It's incredible.
There's a good chance that that is actually the case. I mean, we've got to also say, I mean, also for Pro-Am, I mean, a sensational effort on Alex Fontana's part. I think that first stint was crucial for car collection there, but that's their first podium, let alone first win of the season in Pro-Am for those. But congratulations to Nicola Marinangeli and Vincent Abril. Again, a second race win this season, huge result. That's the spirit of Race AF course.
Christopher Haase, they're congratulating both Marinangeli and Abril there on the win. He himself in third position. And again, what we're seeing here with Marinangeli, a driver who recently made the switch from single-seaters over to GTs and finding success in the world of sports car racing. And if there is a car that sums that up as well, it is the 96 car of Dana and Hanses as well. And Lucas must be so grateful to Motorpark for the opportunities. New championship leaders, Christopher Haase and Simon Riker for East Talent Racing in the #1 Audi. Third in race #2 in Barcelona. In second position for the first time on the podium, Lucas Dunner, and completing a sensational debut weekend, Julian Hanses in the 96 Motorpark car. But for the second time in 2024, keeping the championship hopes alive just about, Nicolo Marinangeli and Vincent Abril for Spirit of Race. They're downstairs with Alfredo.
And it's another win for Vincent Abril, Nicola Marinangeli. Very nice race. Let's start with Vincent. You made first stint from pole, we know. Lap record of the track this morning. How did it go?
Just as we touched upon in qualifying, a massive thank you to AF and Ferrari. As I said, we struggled a little bit at the beginning of the season internally, especially in dry conditions. We were not exactly where we wanted to be, let's say, but we've turned things around. That's the beauty of this team, is that everything is there to win. I'm very happy, obviously, this morning with quali, with the race pace, and I'm so proud of this guy, man. These last two races, he showed me that he was a true racer, so this is a team win, and I'm very happy, very happy.
Yes, because Nicola, after the pit stop, your advantage was minimal, so you had to fight.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to thank Vince for his mega lap this morning and all the team for the mega job he did this weekend. Well, he gave me the car in first position, so I just tried to manage it, and unfortunately luckily we had the safety car, so that made the job easier. So let's move on. We have one more round. So
yeah, we're still in the fight in Monza.
Thank you.
Well done, guys.
Let's unpack that one, shall we? It was side by side between the two championship contending cars at the start of the race, with Jordan Pepper squeezing his way past Christopher Haase. Many of the cars decided not to take the proper route around the apex of turn 2 and end up cutting the cars through there. There was plenty of debris going around. Pepper had to yield the lead back to Vincent Abril in the early stages of the races. The two Motorpark teammates went side by side for fourth position. Spin for Oregon Lamborghini. And then Alex Fontana forced his way through the field, getting clear of Marcos Seibert as he built a nice advantage for his teammate Hash to come back into the lead of Pro-Am later in the race. Pepper and Haase, highlight of the race, this battling over second position, with Haase squeezing his way through on the Lamborghini Works driver, who ended up kicking up some of the gravel there. Abril built a nice advantage. Nicola Marinangeli took over the car in the second half of the race, emerging in the lead. But we ended under safety car for this incredibly scary and huge accident for Alessandro Cozzi, the Ferrari 296, holding up incredibly well. Both driver is okay and getting out of the car and walking away. but it was the second victory of the season for Vincent Abril and Nicolo Marinangeli. They keep themselves just about in the title fight with that win. And of course, a first podium for Lucas Dunner and Julian Hanses as well, with Haase, Riker and Alessio De Leda now tied on points going for the championship in Monza. We move on to the podium, and there are plenty of happy drivers in there, I am sure. Some first-time winners, some first-time podium finishers here. Olymp Racing back on the Pro-Am podium, but for the first time since the first race at the Red Bull Ring as well. They had a couple of races that they didn't manage to get through there, but the Pro podium first, of course. Simon Riker and Christopher Haase, they're finishing on the podium for the sixth time this season. They have definitely been the form team at the moment, East Talent Racing. How amazing for Lucas Dunner and Julian Hanses, the first time on the podium. And Vincent Abril and Nicolo Marinangeli hop, skipping and jumping their way onto the podium.
I mean, this is the first time they've been on the podium since their Euro Formula days for Dunner and Hanses, but let's wait and see what the future brings. Marinangeli and Abril, though, absolutely right, still in the championship fight.
It's the Swiss national anthem for the Spirit of Race team. I was chatting with Vincent Abril earlier and saying, you know, without those early season struggles, this car would have been a real force to be reckoned with in the championship. And of course, it is a question of what could have been, but of course, they are really finding the form now and could be a real thorn in the side for the championship protagonists at Monza.
Yeah, it could well be. I mean, when we look at Marinangeli and Abril, obviously not scoring points in race 2 at Portimao, non-scores in race 2 at Hockenheimring. And then, of course, the major one, which was the Enduro weekend at Spa, where there was 0 scored on that occasion.
But that was over at turn 1 for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was just unfortunate again. But, you know, it's really come alive for them here in the second half of the campaign. I mean, they responded brilliantly at Paul Ricard. I mean, they scored solid points at Hungaroring with a second place when they went back there. And then, of course, a trip to Red Bull Ring where they would pick up yet another second place, but a non-score in race 1. But the second half of the season has definitely paid dividends, and now they have a shot. It's an outside shot, but it's a shot nonetheless.
Yep. They are not going to throw away that shot. I am sure of it. Julian Hanses on the podium there. We do hope to see him back at Monza. We were catching up with him earlier, and he said, don't really know what the plan is for Monza just yet. What a welcome addition he would be to the International GT Open grid, though. And the champagne is sprayed. An incredible race once again here in Barcelona for the International GT Open. 2 very happy crews there. One with a big pressure on their shoulders now for Monza, and the Pro-Am podium to come as well. Carol Bash, what's he checking there? Instagram, Twitter, or is he taking photos? TikTok, maybe. I don't know what his social media platform of choice is, to be honest. I haven't. What's up?
Parabéns, filho. Parabéns, Alanzinho, pelo seu aniversário. Parabéns, Alanzinho. Uhul. Aí, troféuzinho. Vou levar troféuzinho para você.
The standard Portuguese message from Blau Motorsports drivers Marcelo Han.
To be honest, my Portuguese isn't strong.
No, I did say in Hockenheim. I don't know if I had to apologise for anything they said. Again, not really sure, but incredible to see them out there. Very, very popular pairing. It's always great to see them doing well. The 2 drivers that are in their 17th year of competition together, and they're on the podium once again in the Pro-Am category. Yep, 6th time for them this year. Marcin Jedlinski and Carol Bash back on the podium for the 6th time as well this year. They still have a good chance at closing out what will be 3rd in the Pro-Am standings, because Polcini and Chiva are separated on points because Chiva's missed races, but effectively the 2nd best crew of the year. But for the first time in Pro-Am, it is car collection. it is Hash and Alex Fontana as the Blau Motorsport pairing collect their trophies in third position.
I mean, what a U-turn for Hash and Alex Fontana after race one yesterday. Obviously, it all came apart for them in that one, but getting the car into a fit enough state to compete and then coming out on top in a grid like this is no mean feat.
And it is a big Pro-Am field as well, a hugely competitive one. I remember Fontana was saying in qualifying his car wasn't really, it was bent a little bit. The chassis was not in its finest form, and he was hoping to go for overall pole position rather than just class pole. But what a job from both drivers. And Hash, in his first year of car racing, been under the tutelage of Alex Fontana and Yannick Mettler, was running in the 24-hour series early in the year at Mugello and Spa in the endurance races in preparation for this season in the International GT Open, and that's an incredible start. That's well deserved for Hash, because you see these gentleman drivers come in their first year of racing and they are obviously starting from absolute zero at the beginning of the year, and then they develop into these very competent and capable drivers. And I know people tend to sort of turn their nose up at like AM and Pro-Am competition, but the fact of the matter is it's incredibly high level and it's incredibly professional.
Yeah, absolutely right. And obviously you've got to factor in the pro drivers obviously taking part in that Pro-Am exercise. But next up we have the official AM classification and a big podium here for Giuseppe Cipriani. Whilst of course he did not win this race this time around, that went to Adam Osaka and Kiki Saknana. Yet another tremendous effort on Get Speed's part, and you've got to factor in, it's a huge podium for Cipriani, because whilst it may not be necessarily number one here at this point, it's number one in terms of the overall championship. So this is going to mean a lot. So he'll be standing tall. Well done as well, though, to Adam Osaka, Kiki Saknana. Yet another race win that they will enjoy. First happened back at Hockenheimring in their home race for race one for round two, and they came back then at Hungaroring and did the double, didn't they? Managing to pull out 10 points apiece out of the bag that weekend, and now another 10-point finish. And welcome back Christian Korzanowski, Stanislav Jedlinski to the podium for the first time since Paul Ricard in race two, where they went on a bit of a triple streak since Hungaroring race two, and of course pulling out a sensational P3 back at the Spa Enduro as well in the AM category. So well done Stanislav, and well done Christian Korzanowski for putting the work in place on that second stint.
Sixth podium of the season for the Olymp pairing. Fourth victory for the Get Speed pairing of Kiki Saknana and Adam Osaka. But once again on the podium. Only one race this year where Giuseppe Cipriani hasn't finished on the podium, and it is the podium finish that seals him the AM Championship, stealing it away from Team Motorpark, reigning champions. Of course, Cipriani second last year in the AM Championship, having won 4 of those races, 2 of them in Barcelona, in fact. So he has got form around here. The former Formula Renault 3.5 and Auto GP driver, the team that ran in Formula 3000 back in the 90s. But for Get Speed, it's more trophies for the cabinet. That's all from Barcelona. All that remains in 2024 for the International GT Open is one more race, the double points enduro finale, and the top 2 are tied on points. We will see you in October.